Barron Trump and Kai Trump were never individuals to seek the spotlight, but in the weeks following Donald Trump's historic victory over Kamala Harris in the 2024 presidential election, the pair stunned the nation in an unexpected and electrifying way. As the youngest members of a family accustomed to being at the epicenter of global attention, they had often been perceived as figures shrouded in quiet dignity. But that changed when they took the stage at a post-election unity event, delivering a speech that would forever mark a turning point in their lives and solidify their places in American history. Before we start, smash the like and subscribe buttons for more updates. The event was held in Washington, D.C. in the glittering Grand Hall of the National Portrait Gallery. A mix of celebration and reflection, the gathering brought together Americans from all walks of life: politicians, celebrities, business leaders, and everyday citizens. Despite the partisan division that defined the contentious election, the evening was designed to bridge gaps, promote unity, and chart a forward path for the country. Expectations for Barron and Kai's participation were modest. Few imagined the teenagers would play anything more than a ceremonial role, perhaps a polite nod or a few brief words of gratitude. But from the moment they stepped onto the stage, the atmosphere in the room transformed. Barron Trump, now 18, towered over the podium with his remarkable 6'7" stature. Once an enigmatic figure overshadowed by his father's polarizing persona, he carried himself with an air of quiet confidence that demanded attention. Beside him stood his cousin, Kai Trump, the 16-year-old daughter of Donald Trump Jr. While Kai had grown up in a world of Instagram posts and family holiday photos, few had anticipated the powerful voice that emerged when she began to speak. Together, they exuded a sense of unity and strength that felt rare in an era so often characterized by discord. Kai was the first to speak, and her words immediately captivated the audience. Her voice, steady and clear, carried a blend of youthful hope and emotional resonance that struck a chord with everyone in the room. "We stand here today not as representatives of a political party, but as representatives of a generation," she began. "A generation that believes in the power of coming together to build something greater than ourselves. We may have different beliefs and different paths, but we share the same love for this country and the same dream for its future." Her eloquence silenced the room, even among those who might have arrived with skepticism. As she continued, Kai touched on themes of resilience, responsibility, and reconciliation. She spoke about the challenges young people face in a world increasingly divided, and how her generation had a unique opportunity to rise above the noise of politics to create a better future. "Our strength lies not in tearing each other down, but in lifting each other up," she declared. Her words met with murmurs of agreement from the audience. "This is the legacy we want to build, not for ourselves, but for those who come after us." Kai's speech was deeply personal, yet it carried a universal message. She spoke of the lessons she had learned from her family, about perseverance, hard work, and the value of standing firm in one's beliefs. But she also acknowledged the mistakes and controversies that had often overshadowed those values, offering an unexpected note of humility. "We have learned from the past, and we carry those lessons forward. My family's story is not one of perfection, but of growth. And that is the story of America too." When Kai stepped back from the microphone, the applause was immediate and thunderous. Tears glistened in the eyes of several attendees, and even some of the more hardened political figures in the crowd seemed visibly moved. Yet, the room quieted again as Barron Trump approached the microphone, his towering frame imposing yet somehow calming. There was a palpable sense of anticipation. If Kai had set the tone, Barron's role was to deliver the finishing blow. "Thank you, Kai," Barron began, his deep baritone voice commanding attention. "You've shown us all the heart and soul of our generation. And now, I'd like to speak about the future. Not just our family's future or the future of this administration, but the future of the United States of America." Barron's voice carried a gravitas that belied his age. Though he had rarely spoken in public before, it was immediately evident that he had inherited his father's knack for rhetoric while avoiding his penchant for divisiveness. Barron's speech struck a delicate balance, acknowledging the political divides of the past without lingering on them. "We've spent too much time tearing each other apart," he said. "And while elections are about competition, governance is about collaboration. If we're going to succeed as a nation, we have to move beyond the idea of red states and blue states. We are one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That's not just a pledge we recite, it's a promise we must keep." His words echoed through the hall, resonating with the idealism of his generation but grounded in a pragmatic understanding of the challenges ahead. Barron spoke about the need for education reform, opportunities for young people, and the importance of bridging the urban-rural divide that had come to define modern American politics. He also addressed the elephant in the room, the controversies and criticisms that had surrounded his father's presidency. "We know our family name carries weight, sometimes more than it should," he admitted, eliciting a ripple of laughter from the crowd. "But we also know that leadership is not about a name. It's about character, vision, and service." Barron's speech culminated in a powerful call to action, urging the audience and the millions watching at home to set aside their differences and focus on what truly mattered. "Our generation has inherited a world filled with challenges, but we've also inherited a spirit of innovation, resilience, and hope. Let's use that spirit to build bridges instead of walls, not the literal kind, but the ones that divide our communities, our schools, and our hearts." When Barron stepped back, the reaction was instantaneous. The audience rose to its feet in a standing ovation that lasted for several minutes. Cameras panned across the room, capturing the faces of seasoned politicians, media personalities, and everyday Americans united in admiration. The event had begun as a celebration of Donald Trump's electoral victory, but it had become something far greater, a moment of collective inspiration and renewed purpose for the nation. In the days that followed, Barron and Kai's speeches dominated headlines and social media feeds. Pundits on both sides of the political spectrum marveled at their poise, maturity, and ability to articulate a vision that resonated with such a wide audience. "A new generation of leadership," one headline speculated. "The Trump kids who might save America," another proclaimed. Critics who had long dismissed the younger Trumps as mere extensions of their father's polarizing brand were forced to reconsider. Perhaps the most striking aspect of the speeches was their authenticity. Neither Barron nor Kai seemed to be performing for the cameras or trying to score political points. Instead, they came across as two young people deeply committed to making a difference, using their unique platform to foster unity and hope. Their words sparked conversations in schools, workplaces, and homes across the country, reminding Americans of the values that had long defined their nation: courage, compassion, and a commitment to the common good. For Barron and Kai, the moment marked the beginning of a new chapter in their lives. They had stepped out from the shadows of their famous family and into their own light, proving that leadership is not about age, experience, or even a last name. It is about the willingness to stand up, speak out, and inspire others to be their best selves. As the applause echoed in their ears and the weight of their words settled into their hearts, Barron and Kai walked off the stage hand in hand, their faces lit with the glow of accomplishment. They had done more than stun the nation. They had reminded it of its potential. And in doing so, they had not only honored their family's legacy, but begun to build one of their own. As Barron and Kai Trump exited the stage to a thunderous standing ovation, the moment marked not just a high point for the evening, but a transformative juncture in their lives. The impact of their speeches reverberated far beyond the hall, cascading into the consciousness of a nation still grappling with deep divisions. News outlets, social media platforms, and living rooms buzzed with discussions about the eloquence, unity, and vision these two young Trumps had displayed. It was clear that their words had transcended mere political commentary. They had struck a chord with an America yearning for a fresh, unifying perspective. The night wasn't over, though. After the speeches concluded, the event transitioned into a reception where dignitaries and citizens alike mingled. The star attraction was, unsurprisingly, Barron and Kai, who were immediately swarmed by attendees eager to offer praise, ask questions, or simply bask in the afterglow of their electrifying speeches. Kai received similar praise from a Nobel Peace Prize laureate who had come to the event hoping to hear something meaningful amidst the usual political noise. "Your words, my dear, remind me of the speeches I heard from Dr. King when I was a young woman," she said. "They carried the same weight, the same conviction. Never lose that." Despite the compliments, neither Barron nor Kai showed signs of ego or entitlement. Instead, they seemed almost overwhelmed by the response, taking the time to thank every person who approached them. It was evident to those observing that they saw this moment not as a personal triumph, but as a responsibility, a call to rise to the expectations now placed upon them. Over the following weeks, the ripple effects of their speeches continued to grow. Major networks replayed the event in its entirety, with pundits dissecting every line of Barron and Kai's addresses. Opinion pieces popped up in publications across the political spectrum, praising the young speaker's ability to deliver a message of hope without resorting to partisan attacks. Even critics who had built careers out of vilifying the Trump name were forced to acknowledge the power of the moment. Whether you love or loathe the Trump family, one commentator wrote, "You cannot deny that Barron and Kai have struck a chord with this nation. For too long, we've been stuck in a cycle of animosity and recrimination. These two young people have reminded us that it is possible to rise above the fray and find common ground." Social media was similarly ablaze. Clips of their speeches went viral, amassing millions of views within days. Hashtags like #TrumpLegacy Redefined and #NextGenLeadership trended for weeks, sparking debates, think pieces, and even grassroots movements inspired by the themes they had touched on. Youth organizations across the country cited Barron and Kai as examples of what their generation could achieve if they set aside their differences and worked together. In schools, teachers played the speeches for their students, using them as teaching tools to discuss the importance of unity, empathy, and civic engagement. Kai's line, "Our strength lies not in tearing each other down, but in lifting each other up," was particularly popular, becoming a sort of mantra for young people determined to make a difference. Barron's call to build bridges instead of walls was equally resonant, especially among communities that had long felt neglected or marginalized. But it wasn't just words that left an impression, it was action. Recognizing the overwhelming response to their speeches, Barron and Kai decided to channel the momentum into something tangible. Together, they announced the formation of a new initiative called Generation Bridge, a bipartisan organization aimed at fostering dialogue and collaboration among young Americans. The initiative's mission was straightforward: to create spaces where young people from different backgrounds could come together to discuss the issues that mattered most to them, free from the toxicity of partisan politics. Generation Bridge isn't about agreeing on everything, Barron explained during the initiative's launch event, held just a few weeks after their speeches. It's about learning to listen, to understand, and to find solutions that work for everyone. We're not here to tell you what to think. We're here to help you think for yourself. The launch event was held in Atlanta, Georgia, a city rich with history and symbolic significance. Hundreds of young people attended, representing a diverse cross-section of America. Rural and urban, liberal and conservative, privileged and underprivileged. The atmosphere was electric, filled with a sense of possibility that had been missing from the national discourse for far too long. Kai took the stage to share her vision for the initiative. "This isn't about us," she said, gesturing to Barron beside her. "This is about you. Every one of you has a voice, a story, a dream. Generation Bridge is here to amplify those voices, to bring those stories together, and to help make those dreams a reality." The initiative quickly gained traction, with chapters springing up in high schools, colleges, and community centers across the country. Weekly meetings were held where young people could discuss issues like climate change, education, and mental health. Workshops were organized to teach skills like conflict resolution and public speaking. And in a move that surprised many, Barron and Kai insisted on personally attending as many of these events as possible, traveling across the country to meet with participants and hear their stories firsthand. One of the most powerful moments came during a visit to a small town in West Virginia, where the opioid crisis had left scars on nearly every family. During a town hall meeting, Barron listened intently as a young woman named Lila shared her struggles with losing her brother to addiction. "People in places like this feel forgotten," Lila said, her voice breaking. "We feel like nobody cares about us." Barron, visibly moved, responded with empathy and determination. "You're not forgotten," he said, "and we're going to make sure your voice is heard. You deserve better, and we're going to fight for that together." Stories like Lila's became the driving force behind Generation Bridge, shaping its priorities and ensuring that it remained grounded in the real challenges facing everyday Americans. Over time, the initiative grew into a powerful movement, attracting support from both sides of the aisle. Politicians, business leaders, and celebrities lent their voices to the cause, but it was always the young people, students, activists, and community organizers who remained at its heart. Barron and Kai's efforts didn't go unnoticed on the international stage either. Leaders from around the world reached out to express their admiration and support for the initiative. At a United Nations Youth Summit in New York, Kai delivered a keynote address that drew a standing ovation from representatives of over 100 countries. "The challenges we face, climate change, inequality, conflict, are not confined by borders," she said. "Our solution shouldn't be either. It's time for young people everywhere to rise up and lead the way." Barron followed with his own remarks, emphasizing the importance of global cooperation. "The future we build depends on the connections we make today," he said. "Let's make those connections stronger so that no one is left behind." As the months turned into years, Barron and Kai's impact only deepened. Generation Bridge evolved into a robust platform for youth leadership, producing a new generation of activists, innovators, and public servants. Alumni of the initiative went on to run for office, start nonprofits, and launch businesses aimed at solving some of the world's most pressing problems. The ripple effects of that night in Washington, D.C. continued to grow, touching lives in ways that even Barron and Kai could never have imagined. Yet through it all, the two remained remarkably grounded. They often spoke about how their family's journey had shaped them, acknowledging both the privileges and the challenges that came with being Trumps. "We know we have a unique platform," Kai said during an interview with a major news outlet, "but that just means we have an even greater responsibility to use it for good." Barron echoed her sentiment. "At the end of the day, it's not about our name," he said. "It's about what we do with the opportunities we've been given. That's what matters." By the time the 2028 election season rolled around, speculation was rampant about whether Barron or Kai would follow in their grandfather's footsteps and enter politics. But when asked directly, both were characteristically humble. "We're focused on what we're doing right now," Barron said during a press conference. "We're not thinking about the future, just about making a difference today." Kai added, "The truth is, leadership isn't about holding a title. It's about inspiring others to be their best selves. That's what we're trying to do, and that's what we'll keep doing no matter where life takes us." In a world too often defined by cynicism and division, Barron and Kai Trump had emerged as unlikely symbols of hope and possibility. Their speeches that night in Washington had been just the beginning of a journey that would transform not only their lives, but the lives of countless others. As they continued to build bridges and break down barriers, they reminded the nation and the world that even in its darkest moments, the future still held infinite promise. The story of Barron and Kai Trump continued to evolve in unexpected and transformative ways. What had begun as a single electrifying moment during a unity event had grown into a movement that transcended partisan politics, personal ambition, and generational divides. The two young leaders, catapulted into the public consciousness by their stirring speeches, became central figures in a national and eventually global dialogue about youth empowerment, collective action, and the responsibilities of leadership. For Barron, the months following his speech were a time of intense reflection and growth. While his towering presence and eloquence had captured the nation's imagination, he was deeply aware of the expectations that came with his newfound platform. Determined not to squander the momentum of his words, he embarked on a nationwide tour aimed at fostering direct connections with the American people. It was a move inspired as much by curiosity as by a sense of duty. Barron's tour wasn't a glitzy media affair. He avoided the traditional venues of power, Capitol buildings, corporate boardrooms, and elite universities, in favor of town halls, community centers, and high schools. In rural Montana, he met with farmers grappling with the twin challenges of climate change and economic uncertainty. In Detroit, he sat with factory workers who had lost their jobs to automation. In Miami, he joined a group of high school students organizing a climate strike. Everywhere he went, he listened intently, his notepad always in hand. One particularly poignant moment came during a visit to a Navajo Nation reservation in Arizona. There, Barron met with tribal elders and youth leaders to discuss issues ranging from education to water rights. Sitting in a circle under the vast desert sky, he heard stories of resilience and perseverance, as well as frustrations over decades of broken promises. Moved by what he learned, Barron made a promise of his own: to advocate for policies that respected indigenous sovereignty and ensured that Native American voices were heard in the halls of power. Meanwhile, Kai was carving her own path as a voice for her generation. While Barron's focus was often on the structural and policy-level challenges facing the nation, Kai leaned into the human, emotional side of leadership. She became a sought-after speaker at youth conferences, her words resonating with young people who were hungry for authenticity and hope. Her knack for storytelling, coupled with her deep empathy, made her a powerful connector across cultural and ideological divides. Kai's work extended beyond speeches. She spearheaded a mental health awareness campaign called Speak Your Truth, aimed at reducing the stigma surrounding mental illness among young people. The campaign included workshops, school programs, and an online platform where teens could share their stories anonymously. Within months, Speak Your Truth became a national phenomenon, with millions of participants and testimonials pouring in from every corner of the country. One story stood out to Kai, a letter from a 14-year-old boy in Nebraska who had contemplated suicide but decided to seek help after attending one of her workshops. "Your words saved my life," he wrote. "For the first time, I felt like someone understood what I was going through." Kai carried the letter with her everywhere, a reminder of the profound impact that even small actions could have. The cousins' shared vision of bridging divides found an unexpected ally in the arts. Recognizing the power of storytelling to inspire change, they collaborated with filmmakers, musicians, and writers to create a series of multimedia projects that celebrated the diversity of the American experience. One such project, a documentary titled Voices of the Future, premiered at the Sundance Film Festival to widespread acclaim. Featuring interviews with young activists, entrepreneurs, and artists from across the country, the film showcased the challenges and triumphs of a generation determined to shape its own destiny. Despite their growing influence, Barron and Kai faced their share of criticism and controversy. Skeptics questioned their motives, accusing them of leveraging their family name for personal gain. Others dismissed their initiatives as naive or idealistic, arguing that real change required more than speeches and campaigns. Barron, in particular, found himself navigating the complex legacy of his father, whose presidency remained a polarizing chapter in American history. Yet, rather than shying away from these challenges, Barron and Kai leaned into them. They acknowledged the criticisms, engaged their detractors in dialogue, and used the feedback to refine their approach. "Leadership isn't about being perfect," Barron said during an interview with a major news network. "It's about being willing to learn, to grow, and to adapt. If we're not listening to the people who disagree with us, we're not doing our job." Kai echoed this sentiment during a TED Talk that became one of the platform's most watched videos of all time. "We don't have all the answers," she admitted. "But that's okay. Leadership isn't about pretending to have it all figured out. It's about asking the right questions and bringing the right people to the table." As their influence grew, so did the scope of their work. Generation Bridge, the initiative they had founded, expanded its reach internationally, partnering with organizations in Europe, Asia, and Africa to foster cross-cultural dialogue and collaboration. The program's annual summit, held in Cape Town, South Africa, drew participants from over 50 countries, each eager to share ideas and solutions for the challenges facing their communities. At the summit, Barron delivered a keynote address that underscored the interconnectedness of the global community. "The problems we face, whether it's climate change, inequality, or the erosion of democracy, are too big for any one country to solve alone," he said. "We have to work together, not just as nations, but as human beings who share the same planet and the same future." Kai, too, took the stage, sharing stories of young leaders she had met through her travels. "The solutions to our problems are already out there," she said. "They're in the minds of the young girl in Kenya building solar-powered water pumps, the boy in Brazil using AI to protect the rainforest, and the college student in India teaching coding to underprivileged kids. Our job is to lift up these voices and give them the support they need to succeed." The summit concluded with the announcement of a groundbreaking initiative, the Global Youth Action Fund, a $100 million grant program to support grassroots projects led by young people. Funded by a coalition of philanthropic organizations, the program was designed to provide resources, mentorship, and visibility to innovators and changemakers around the world. Barron and Kai played an active role in shaping the program, ensuring that it remained accessible and inclusive. Back in the United States, the cousins continued to grapple with the complexities of their unique positions. While their work had earned them widespread admiration, they were also acutely aware of the weight of their family name and the scrutiny that came with it. Barron, in particular, often found himself in the shadow of his father's larger-than-life persona, a reality he addressed head-on during an interview with Time magazine. "My dad's legacy is his own," Barron said. "It's not my job to defend it or define it. My job is to chart my own path and do what I believe is right. At the end of the day, I'm not just Donald Trump's son, I'm my own person." Kai, too, reflected on the challenges of growing up in a family that had become synonymous with controversy. "We've seen the best and worst of what it means to be in the public eye," she said during a panel discussion at Harvard University. "But that's also given us a unique perspective on the power of leadership and the importance of integrity. We don't take that lightly." As the years passed, Barron and Kai's impact continued to grow. Their speeches and initiatives inspired countless young people to step into leadership roles. from student government to community organizing to entrepreneurship. They became symbols of a new kind of leadership, one that valued collaboration over competition, empathy over ego, and action over rhetoric. Yet, for all their achievements, Barron and Kai remained deeply grounded. They often credited their family, friends, and mentors for keeping them humble and focused. "We're just two kids trying to make a difference," Kai said during a late-night talk show appearance. "If we can inspire others to do the same, then we've done our job." Barron and Kai's journey was far from over. They had taken the first steps in a lifelong commitment to service, one that would undoubtedly evolve in ways they couldn't yet imagine. But one thing was certain: their story was a testament to the power of courage, vision, and hope, and a reminder that even in the most divided of times, there is always room for unity, understanding, and progress. As the years unfolded, Barron and Kai Trump's influence began to solidify not only within the United States but across the global stage. Their work continued to transcend the initial expectations placed upon them, becoming a symbol of what youthful determination and visionary leadership could achieve. The cousins, though still young, were becoming catalysts for change in ways that reshaped the narrative around their family name and offered a new lens through which to view the future of leadership. Barron's focus turned increasingly toward addressing systemic issues through policy advocacy and grassroots reform. Recognizing the importance of sustainable solutions, he began working closely with organizations dedicated to combating climate change. One of his landmark initiatives was partnering with a coalition of scientists, technologists, and policymakers to create a program called Future First, aimed at transitioning underserved communities to renewable energy. Future First focused on funding solar energy projects in low-income neighborhoods, providing not just clean energy but also jobs and educational programs in green technology. Environmental justice is about more than protecting the planet. It's about ensuring that every community has an equal opportunity to thrive, Barron said during the program's launch in New Orleans. By the second year, Future First had successfully installed solar panels in over 500 communities, dramatically reducing energy costs for thousands of families while helping to combat climate change. Kai, meanwhile, found herself increasingly drawn to the international stage, advocating for education reform and gender equity in developing nations. Her passion for these issues led her to collaborate with UNESCO on a global campaign called Books Beyond Borders. The initiative focused on building libraries and providing digital learning tools to communities that lacked access to quality education. During a trip to Afghanistan, Kai visited a newly built library where young girls were learning to read and code. "Education is the most powerful tool we have to break cycles of poverty and inequality," she said, addressing a group of local educators. "Every child deserves the chance to dream, to create, and to build a better future." If you liked this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, leave your comments below and tell us, what are your thoughts on Barron and Kai Trump's speech and its impact? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching and see you next time.